Hello everyone, my name is Nicole and I am the Parent Support Worker for the Niagara Catholic District School Board Early On Child and Family Centers. Today we are going to be highlighting the key points from Chapter 6, which is called Infant and Preschool Mental Health, The Power of Relationships, from Dr. Jean Clinton's book, Love Builds Brains. So within this chapter, Dr. Jean reminded us of why she focuses on the power of relationships. She reminds us that love really is what builds brains. But when considering the mental health of our kids, the relationship between the child and the caregiver is not the only one with power. As we venture through this chapter summary, it's important to recognize the importance of the relationships that surround the child's life. For example, the relationship between the family and the community. Again, Dr. Jean connects this chapter's message with the messages offered by Tom Porter, a Mohawk leader. Within this message, we are encouraged to reflect on what might change in our society if we approached policy with the mindset that children are the sacred ones, that children are born capable, competent, and ready to learn. What if we recognized that more than half of mental health problems at age 26 were diagnosed in childhood and adolescence? What if we focused our money and attention on the early years too? Let's look at some numbers that Dr. Jean presented within this chapter. So she says that 20% of children aged 4 to 17 experience mental health issues. That's about 6 students in every 30 student classroom. Kids under the age of 4? Dr. Jean found it very difficult to find research on mental health for kids under the age of 4, and found that pediatricians she spoke to often asked, infant mental health, what even is that? As we start talking about the mental health of our real young ones, our infants, we start to think about their social and emotional development. Recall last week our conversation regarding school readiness. If kids are ready to read and write but have no idea how to get along with one another, how do you think this is going to affect their mental health, their sense of belonging, their future success and well-being? There is research in the US that suggests that children in pre-kindergarten or preschool are being expelled or suspended from school at a rate that's more than 3 times that of children aged kindergarten to grade 12 combined. But why? Why is it? Well, because children with mental health problems sometimes show these problems as problem behavior. That's how it presents itself. So according to the US-based advocacy group called 0 to 3, infant and early childhood mental health is the developing capacity of the child to do 3 things. Number 1 is to form close adult and peer relationships. Power of relationships. Number 2 is to experience, manage, and express a full range of emotions. And the 3rd is to explore the environment and learn. As Dr. Jean says, this essentially encompasses healthy social and emotional development. If we look back to previous chapters, we know how to foster this development. We know just by looking at the cover of the book. If love is what builds brains, then love is going to have influence on their development. What is required for this reciprocal serve and return love? Attachment. Ensuring our children have a secure, predictable, and safe environment where they know that when they cry, they're going to be soothed, when they're hungry, they're going to be fed, and when they're in distress, they're going to be protected. So that explains the love portion. But what about the brain? How is the brain developing? Dr. Jean shares a representation of brain development as offered by Dan Siegel. I'll share this with you to help you understand the development of the brain. So if we consider our hand to be a developing brain, we view the palm as the midbrain and the brain stem. It is essentially the primitive part of the brain, the part that keeps us alive. And then our thumb represents the limbic or emotional system. And then we have these 4 fingers to represent the prefrontal cortex, which is the logical brain, which is still under construction until the age of 25, which is what we will be talking about in weeks to come. So what happens with our young ones is that they typically use their emotional brain first. So it's like they flip their head. So when your kids fall to the floor because you gave them a purple popsicle instead of the orange one, that's why. They're using this emotional brain first. So children don't learn to manage these emotions on their own. They need help from the adults in their lives to co-regulate these emotions. And then our final consideration when thinking about the brain and our child's mental health is their stress levels. So we have to remember stress behavior is not misbehavior. If our child is acting out, being aggressive, irritable, showing poor memory, or difficulty focusing, we need to ask ourselves what is causing that behavior. Because high levels of stress can affect their physical and developmental regulation, we need to always look at ways to remove and or cope with the stressor that is causing that behavior. So if anything else, I think this chapter acts as a wake-up call for some of us. And it relates back to our conversation last week of challenging our assumptions about childhood. For example, I run a workshop called Kids Have Stress Too, and you can comment below or message us if you'd like to join one of these sessions. But the reason I bring it up is because I had an experience with a family friend who responded to this workshop by saying, kids don't have stress, they're kids. They have fun and they play. What is there to talk about with childhood stress? Likewise, with this perspective, they might assume that a child couldn't possibly deal with mental health problems either. But how can we ensure support for our kids' mental health if there is a stigma surrounding the idea that sometimes kids need this support? I want to conclude with another lovely Dr. Jean quote. She says, "I want a child to feel that their favorite place is inside a parent's hug." As a parent, I hope you continue to take the same key messages from these chapter reviews. Your power as the parent or caregiver is nestled within your ability and willingness to provide your child with an environment of love, support, and care. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will connect again next week.